Before we move on, we're going to take a look at the writing rubric from the WIDA consortium. The writing rubric, again, is used with grades 1 through 12 and is used with all students regardless of their starting English language proficiency level. Just like the speaking rubric, it's a great tool to use to assess students informally, and it's also a great tool to use when thinking about instruction in the future, when thinking about how to push a student at level 2 to level 3 writing. This is a tool I often share with students as well to show them what they need to do to make their writing even better. It follows the same organization as the speaking rubric, and a lot of things will be almost exactly the same. So we're going to just take the next 4 minutes or so to briefly review what we talked about and to note some of the differences in the writing rubric. Just like in the speaking rubric, the level of the student, the English language proficiency level, is listed down the left-hand side, and across the top we have those same three expressive language domains, so linguistic complexity, vocabulary usage, and language control. Once again, linguistic complexity refers to the variety and length and complexity of sentences that students are using. Vocabulary is the level, frequency, and specificity of the vocabulary that students are using, and language control is the ability for students to express their their ideas. In the linguistic complexity category, it is important to note that this category, for the writing rubric, this category also includes how well students are able to organize and make their writing a cohesive whole. So we're going to do the same thing that we did with the speaking rubric today with the writing rubric. We're going to look at the different categories from level 1 to level 6. They'll go a lot faster, however, because the speaking rubric does map on very well to the writing rubric. So starting at level 1 with linguistic complexity, we see that students are writing in single words and set phrases, that much of it is copied or adapted. At level 2, students are beginning to use phrases and short sentences of their own design, although some of it still may be copied. Students at level 2 are also beginning to organize their writing into somewhat of a cohesive whole. So they're not just writing sentences separate from each other, they're starting to link their sentences up and create a whole short paragraph. At level 3, you'll see simple and expanded sentences with some complexity and some detail, very similar to the speaking rubric. At level 4, you'll see a variety of sentence lengths, and you'll see more cohesion. At level 5, even more cohesion and a lot more organization, and still some pretty complex sentences. And at level 6, you'll see near native fluency, near native level complexity, organization, and cohesion. So next in the vocabulary usage section, you'll notice that this section maps almost exactly to the speaking rubric. We start at level 1, entering. You'll see that students are only writing with the highest frequency vocabulary words. Words like book, pen, pencil, notebook, and some words from their content areas, the really high frequency ones. So let's take as our example again the 6th grade history class that we talked about in the speaking rubric video. The words that you'd see at level 1, those high frequency words, are words like government and maybe history. At level 2, you'll see that same very basic, those same high frequency words, and also some more general words, just like you did when students were speaking. You'll see words like war, government, president, and citizen. However, there still may be some more specific vocabulary lacking that you would want to see. At level 3, you'll see that more specific language starting to develop, words like freedom, rights, election, voting, democracy, but you'll still not have the level of precision that you might expect from someone at grade level, a native speaker at grade level. Levels 4, 5, and 6 are where students are beginning to become more precise and more technical in their vocabulary. So at level 4, they're using more specific terms and more technical terms. At level 5, they're showing a facility with those technical terms. The technical terms in that 6th grade class might be words like civil rights movement, constitutional law, amendment, suffrage, suffragette, etc. Things that are very, very specific and may be taught in that actual content class. And then at level 6, and this is different from the speaking rubric, you'll see that students are able to use general, specific, and technical language in a very precise way. So they're moving beyond just using that technical language and using that specific language to a place where they can use it in an extremely precise way. Lastly, we see language control. Lastly, we have language control. Language control also maps very well onto the WIDA speaking rubric. And again, it's important here to remember that language control is very dependent on what we're seeing in the linguistic complexity category. And remember, language control refers to the amount and the types of errors that students are making and the way in which those errors affect our ability to understand what students are producing, the writing that students are producing. Let's take a look at level 1. In level 1, students are generally comprehensible and do not have many mistakes when they're copying or adapting from a model. However, if they are writing something original, they're going beyond what's here in the linguistic complexity category, our understanding of them is going to be significantly impeded. At level 2, we're seeing that when students are here writing phrases and short sentences, some of which is adapted, they're generally comprehensible. However, beyond that, there are many errors, and it may be difficult to understand what they're trying to say when they're writing. At level 3, we see that students are generally comprehensible when they're writing in simple and expanded sentences. However, at times, their errors affect their comprehensibility when they're trying to produce something more complex. At level 4, we see that students are always comprehensible. At all times, they are comprehensible. This is because their linguistic complexity is at the point where they're using a variety of different sentences. So they're always comprehensible, and usually their errors don't impede the overall meaning. However, they do affect, they may affect that's first language interference. Okay. At level 5, we're seeing that they're approaching the same level as their native English speaking or English writing peers, and the errors that they're making do not impede comprehensibility ever, but they might be a little bit obvious, and they might demonstrate that student is not a native speaker of English. However, they're not affecting our ability to understand them. And lastly, at level 6, they are proficient on statewide assessments. They're at the point where they can reach grade level and write like their native English speaking and writing peers. Okay, at this point, we're going to take a look at some writing samples from students at different grade levels and at different English language proficiency levels. You're going to take a look at the document in the next segment of the module. You're going to give those samples, you're going to assess them using the writing rubric, and then you're going to take a look at the key document, which is given afterwards, and take a look at how your assessment of each student's writing sample matches the way that they were assessed on the access test.